All right, we appear to be live. Just make an audio test and such. Audio test. All right, we appear to be live. There we go. All right. So there, everything's done. End of the video. Yay, short. Um, yeah, just been a while, so I figured I would do a room and see if there's anybody interested in any of these subjects. So I did do the Chappelle Natural Philosophy Society Physics room thing on Saturday morning. And it sort of ended up being sort of an interrogation of my theory in some sense. But more specific, it was, a contrast between any, I guess you'd say particle theory versus some ether notion. And, I'd almost say that Einstein's theory is sort of an ether theory, I suppose. Bent space not being a nothing, space being a something. And so most of the people in this room, most of these dissidents apparently are etherists of one form or another, and very much electric universe types. And so the real contrast was, in some sense, a conversation about um, their perception that it is very intuitive or makes sense to them that the fundamental form of the universe would be a medium that everything would have to exist in, and that this medium would have the properties or the form, the elemental form. And to me, that's almost like that's putting the candy bar before the sugar kind of a thing. It's making a mechanism that's way too complex to be elemental, to be what the universe is made out of. Mediums are somethings, they're not nothing. And when they allow for all these different kinds of manifestation of force, in the sense that you can have things that move a straight line in a very tight effect, perturbation, a perturbation that's very confined. And then you have one that spreads, and creates waves, quote unquote, in the traditional sense. That's a lot of properties for one thing to have, first, I would say. And I don't find it at all intuitive to think of the universe in those terms. I think that as basic as you can get is two things hitting each other. That's that kinetic ball kind of reality is about as basic a elemental form of function that you can get. I mean, moving, having a thing, a clump, and having the clump move, okay, those are things you could say that's just the way it is. Things are clumps and clumps move. The rest is just, yeah, and they hit each other. And when this is different than this and they hit each other, it creates another rule for the effect. But it's all kind of simple. So it's all checkers and checkerboards. And I just don't get the ether thing at all. It's not as all intuitive. My brain never considered it even. It's like a Sasquatch or something. It's just always seemed to me to be um, why would I believe in an ether? Why wouldn't I just believe in the stuff moving? Why would I, even thinking about the ether, you're thinking about it as a medium. I mean, I know when water moves, it's because of mechanics of the little bits inside of the water that's moving. The little stuff is moving. The medium isn't really moving. So movements, even in a medium, was always, in my opinion, something you could go deeper. There had to be a function to the medium. It had to be a reason it behaves the way it behaves. So this seems a huge, um, problem in terms of perception. That they find it really intuitive to think in terms of mediums, and I find that completely unexplanatory. It doesn't. It's not a mechanism. Doesn't make sense at all to me. The medium has to be made out of something. There's a structure. Its structure's got to be made out of something. So it doesn't really get to, in my opinion, an elemental cause at all. So anyway, and so this came up in the conversation because they were like obliging me to explain the origin, right? I reduced the entire function of the universe to two forces. They're really the same force, just two polarizations, A and B, and two matter bits, A and B, proton, electron. And, basically we'll explain 98% of how the universe works with just those two things, those four things altogether. And so I made it that simple, and they're still saying, tell me why. Why does a photon move? No, I can't tell you that. And they use that as evidence as how my theory is incomplete, and it's unacceptable. It's rejectable on its face because it somehow doesn't explain why photons move. When I could ask the same question, where did the medium come from? How does the medium know to make something go in a straight line and to make something spread? How does the medium function? What makes the medium carry things? How does it do that? How does it perpetuate? And they don't feel any obligation to answer those questions. And they certainly would find it offensive, I think, if I said, well, I could just discount your theory out of hand because you don't have a creator. You didn't explain what kind of God created this ether, who spread it, who made it. Well, anyway, it's just a really weird circumstance. And I guess I would first say that it's an illegitimate argument on its face when you start obliging somebody to explain just simple rules. When you have really simple rules and they say, oh, you have to explain the simple rules, that's just already out of bounds. I mean, I would never think I could just defeat ether arguments by merely just saying who made the ether. I mean, that's that's not a legitimate criticism. My obligation is to point out how there's no evidence for the ether, and that the existence of it would create problems that aren't observed in experiments. We don't see what the ether would cause in the reality. An argument like that. Well, anyway, so it does make arguing difficult when people are applying, in my opinion, hypocritical standards, but just the fact that they are this confident that somehow it makes more sense to imagine the universe as being entirely made of something, like there is absolutely nothing space, no empty spaces. It's all something. That's not intuitive for me at all. So anyway, that's the preface. Some of this, I suppose. So anyway, it was an interesting conversation. Some other issues came up, which were more important, like magnetism and different subjects, where I did explain to them my theory, and so that was good that I got an opportunity to explain. And I think I did a fairly good job of all that. So anyway, the bad news is you didn't post the video yet, so it's who knows when it gets posted. But it was an interesting 2 hours from my perspective. So anyway, I guess I'll read some of these quite useless comments, and then I'll talk about some stuff. So bizarre statement here. Let's see. So this is Kazuka Victoria. Yeah. Okay. Not knowing who Franz Liszt is tells us a lot. So tells us a lot. Us us in the know. USA education really sucks. So again, so he actually thinks that if he was going to make an educational institution, he would actually waste time playing music and identifying who wrote it. And he would actually think that wasting neurons on that knowledge is edifying and make you a better person, make you a more competent researcher or experimentalist or reasoner. I mean, your reasoning skills are hugely, you know, expanded and empowered by knowledge of 200-year dead composers. That's really important stuff. We have to know their names because, they're dead, and you have to know who the dead guys were, the dead stuff. you know, um, First off, that never really, it's nice to know a name, but the names don't really, it's not really doing the dead guy any good. As much as we'd like to think he's getting credit or something, he's really not. It's not very useful. So what's it all about, really? And so again, classical music is, as much as I like it, uh, liking it, I should waste my time worrying about who wrote it or what his politics were, or what his disabilities were. All that somehow is important. No, I'd say European education, if we're just going to use vernacular like that, sucks if you're wasting people's neurons on this crap. Um, Fuck you, fail. Stupid comment. Let's see. These two in the Octagon, I'd buy tickets for that. So I imagine that's a Ken Wheeler video. I imagine. Well, Ken is a coward, so can't happen because Ken's a coward. The James McGinn post a comment on my channel comment section. Weird. Gary, do you discuss scientifically controversial topics that are not specific to theoretical physics? Well, I would argue that there is no such thing as a subject not in some way pretty thoroughly connected to physics. I mean, it's the description of all the causes and effects. So it sort of has something to do with everything. And I guess I just don't know what you think scientifically controversial is exactly. ESP or something? You think that's a science? There's people making claims that have nothing to do with really science. They're not scientific claims. So I don't know what you're getting at all. But yeah, I tend not to like truth or theories. I don't like unevidenced declarations either from the establishment or from the dissidents. So unless you can prove something, even just logically, yeah, you're just wasting my time. All right. So then Superior Mind says, I'm blown away every time someone proclaims the universe is actually math. So I won't read the rest, but you get the point. Yeah, I think it's really stupid to think that your superficial mathematical representations of the formula, the ingredients. So, like a recipe, if I have the recipe written for a cake, that somehow that's cake, or that it's any of the ingredients. It's nice to have a recipe. It's nice to have a formula that tells you what the outcome will be. Yeah, that's really great. But it really doesn't have anything to do with all the stuff that's going to happen between you, how many times you mix it, how well you mix it, what order you put the ingredients in, what temperature you bake it at. I mean, there's all this stuff that formula isn't really going to get to. And that's the part where it just fails so completely. And the end product, from just looking at the recipe, you're not going to be able to see oh, it goes from being liquid to being solid. You know, that all the moisture evaporates and all the, you're not going to be able to look at the ingredients and the instructions and just by looking at them say, I know how hard the cookie's going to be. Um, it doesn't tell you much. So it's really not, it's not understanding what baking is. Okay, just reading a recipe. Uh, there's more to understanding than that. All right, so then let's see what this idiot says. Fake Wayne. Actually, most physicists don't make such bold claims. They make incredibly bold claims. So again, this is more absolute nonsense from the idiot. I think that's how you say straw man fallacy. No, again, it's obvious they make incredibly bold statements about what they assert with confidence. Well, this proves it must be a wave, and this does this, and dark matter lensing proves it must be dark matter in the universe, and blah blah blah. They make all kinds of declarations of the truth, and that's another subject that I wrote down for the Saturday discussion. Was, I mean, that's something that should be part of a discussion that no one seems to want to have either. I mean, I did say it, I did bring it up, that the real conversation should be about the strength of evidence. And no matter whether you're a dissident or you're the establishment, it should be recognized what part of your theory and statements and declarations, which ones are backed up by really solid evidence and which ones are backed up by with really mushy and weak evidence. So I've argued this over and over, use this word weak, and none of these, none of these people will concede that this evidence isn't as good as it should be for the strength of the conviction. You know, you're sentencing all dissidents to death, essentially, and you have really, really weak evidence of your truth, your facts, and it shouldn't be that way. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. So again, it's somehow, well, whatever. I think they say these there exist certain mathematical statements which describe the reality situation better than other mathematical statements. So again, they're formulas. They're just recognizing relationships between, for example, stirring ingredients and how thick the mixture gets, and then you know, what the consequence of, say, baking. Yeah, you know, they're just formalizations of relationships between a certain action and a reaction. And the math that describes it better than worse. And the math that describes it better than worse is also the math that is incompatible with stuff like photons being Newtonian particles. So again, there's no evidence, there's no incompatible math. So this is another lie, just made up. There's only a recognition of a structure, a mechanical understanding the fact that there's a variable, and that he's just assuming that when there's an edge, that it's made out of paper. There's no atoms, there's no electrons. There couldn't be anything weird about the transition from one surface to another surface, when we know there's incredibly weird things that happen with surfaces, you know, with light when it transmits through different surfaces, and how the index of refraction changes and all kinds of things change. So in spite of the really substantial amount of evidence indicating surfaces aren't just nothing, transitions from air to paper or air to steel, these transitions aren't meaningless. They're not uninteresting. They're capable of producing interesting effects. And that he's just flatly saying, no, we've proven that can't possibly work. There can't possibly be the matter can't be causing anything to happen. That's not possible. The environment that the photon is passing through, that can't have anything to do with it. They're magic photons, and we've proven it. You know, that's all he's saying. Anyway, All right. Like photons being Newtonian particles or gravity caused by particle bombardment. So again, he uses the word bombardment, which no one's arguing particle bombardment. They're arguing that the energy of the photon is absorbed, that's momentum, and the thing moves because it absorbed the energy. And by absorbing the energy, that means it's delayed it, if not stopped it, from getting where it was going. The energy was going somewhere. It doesn't go where it would have gone. Therefore, the other object isn't hit by it, which means what's the consequence of you not getting hit by a quanta of energy? Only an idiot would say, well, look, there was going to be stuff hitting this on this side. And if that stuff hits, the pen stays right here. Now, if I say that stuff's not going to hit, can I understand that maybe the pen's not going to stay here? That that's going to be the effect of the change in cause? That there's actually going to be a consequence to creating a change. And he's saying we've somehow proven, or our mathematics proves that can't possibly be true. It can't possibly be true that an object would absorb a force, move because it absorbed it, move a little bit because it absorbed a little force, and that force doesn't go somewhere, and that changes the environment for something else. And that something else has to react because of the change in the environment. He's saying he has math that proves that can't be an answer. He doesn't have any such math, this arrogant fuck. He just talks out of his ass, pretends he has some knowledge of a truth, and provides no evidence for this proof. A standard fucking weaselly troll hunk of shit. So superior mind, I'm sure didn't answer with as good an answer as I just provided. Yeah, but we'll see. Let's see. He says sometimes he just gets too lost in details. To clarify, I'm not generalizing physicists or even people, just saying each time I see the proclamation, I'm baffled. Even more so that people take it seriously without questioning it. Yes, there's this whole argument that mathematics is physics. It's out there. And so again, for the cowboy to pretend this isn't something argued. I mean, Hoffladay, for example, said, we don't need any other answer for gravity. It's the geometry. The geometry says, okay, like somehow because there's geometry, that is, you can describe the force effect using actual little blocks. Like I could build an Empire State Building out of Legos. Does that mean I built the Empire State Building? No, it just means I made a model of it out of something that's similar but isn't really duplicating it. So this geometry is only synthesizing the appearance of gravity, right? Because we know gravity is not really caused by some well that things fall into. We know that gravity isn't explained by gravity. Can't use gravity to explain gravity. And so this bent geometry ends up just being a declaration. See, it is this way from evidence, and it is this way because geometry says so. Well, I'm not disagreeing that the circumstance says so, but to call the circumstance geometry, no, the circumstance is that you've absorbed force, and that affects other things in the universe. When you absorb a force, it doesn't go somewhere, and that has a consequence. Stupid shit for brain. All right, so Superior Mind says elementary kinetic interactions have their own rules which depend on composition. All right. I like the sense that he brought up elementary kinetic interactions. That's a good sentence. That's a good phrase, because that's Newton, and it is it's certainly not something that has been disproven by any modern physics. You can only add to it. You can't subtract from it. A collective behavior of the elements that made up of binary operations can work on each other in simple, specific ways And that emergent complexity and the rules that come from that don't apply to binary itself. Oh dear, well, that gets a little bit obscure. Clearly, I don't think you're going to see the recipe, um, the process in the outcome intuitively. The cake doesn't look like, mixed batter. you know, I find sometimes even pursuit of the underlying mechanism comes under fire, and I'm intrigued by the phenomenon. So I don't know exactly what that means, but all right. So Stephen Hill asked that's kind of a silly question. I mean, it's almost too simple, Follow-up question: what if you fired a gun at the rear window of a train moving the speed of a bullet? Would the bullet go through the window? Well, of course, everything going with the train, okay, is going to experience the same physics. So, yes, the gun fires, it'll look like a real bullet going real speed when it hits the window. Now, the truth is, from the outside observer's perspective, the bullet is not moving, in truth. Because you've just stopped its movement and going the speed of a bullet in one direction, and you've just compensated for it. So the bullet stopped, and now the train is going to move into the bullet. And so the train window is going to smash into the bullet at the speed of a bullet. But that's all that's going to happen. The bullet loses velocity, and now the train's velocity compared to the bullet is going to be the speed of a bullet. So yes, the bullet is going to get hit by a speeding window. All right. Oh, the fake Wayne. Let's see. Oh God, I'm sure this will be insightful. Okay, you can just fucking die, piece of shit, and such. I won't even read his other comments. So that'll be his penalty, is I didn't get to enjoy whatever slop he typed. All right, 100% free dating site. Yes, well, you can go to hell too. Now, another exciting room. I can see, yes, it's really, yes, sir. Everybody's brilliant. Anyway, it's just absolutely nothing. And yes, and the ones who show up say, hey, Gary. Yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, I never called your ex-girlfriend. That's the good news about getting rid of PMs is you get rid of PMs from people who you're just saying, what are you doing? What is this? But anyway, you were supposed to try to get in the room one of these times, have a conversation sometime. Name used to be Alexander the Great, I think. I guess he's he's lost some greatness weight. Oh, I guess I have to hit this little arrow. Yes, there. Done. Okay. Fuck you, arrow. All right. So let's see. I guess I'm going to just talk up some of the subjects. Yeah, I did take notes for the Saturday thing. I was very conscientious just in case there was something that needed to be talked about or something that would be interesting. So the first real problem is the evidence. We're all obligated to prove cases, and clearly conventional physics thinks they don't have that obligation. They think because they've convinced most people that that's all that's required. They have the default authority position, so it's like somehow they are given this right not to have to prove anything anymore. And then when they make an effort to prove it, they always just basically, this is where I say they cheat the truth. Clearly, in saying that the two slit experiment proves something when it proves nothing. And then when you get to the single slit, it only gets more complicated. And then you get to the single surface that also creates the same pattern, a pattern. they're in deep water, way in over their head in terms of they have way too weak a connection to be able to defend their Heisenberg-Huygens nonsense. And it shows up everywhere because once they've established like some kind of fake proof, then they start using it in all these other circumstances where now all of a sudden the orbitals of the electron inside the atom is an amorphous space, and the electron is everywhere at once. It's not moving through that space, it's not vibrating in that space. No, it's everywhere in that space. um, you know until somebody looks, and then it says I'm here when they look. Is somehow looking is important. So, but anyway, but the weak evidence thing is so important. I mean, there's no honesty in the conversation because people won't admit that they don't have Darwinian weight of evidence. I mean, Darwin collected all kinds of evidence defending evolution, from all kinds of different places all around the world and all that kind of stuff. I mean, they have nothing like that kind of evidence for these declarations, stating they know what it is. It's a wave in an electric and magnetic field that they don't describe or explain how it exists or what it does or how it does what it does. I mean, it's amazingly dishonest, not to say that shouldn't be good enough. You shouldn't win the gold medal, the Nobel Prize, for crap that's this uncooked. All right. So the other thing I thought of that I thought would be an interesting conversation if we had gotten to it was gravity, because in thinking about gravity, and especially as things get bigger and bigger, and I've never really heard this conversation about the consequences of a body becoming gravitational, is that it creates thermal heat from the pressure. So as the object gets bigger, more and more of its surface bits are attempting to accelerate towards its center of gravity, and they're not succeeding. So they're constantly pushing and creating pressure. So as you go from the surface of, say, an asteroid to the center of the asteroid, there's a difference in terms of, you would argue, the pressure. The pressure has to be different. There has to be more pressure in the center than there is on the surface. And this comes up with comets because people are mystified by the fact that comets expel gases when they're not getting hit by the sun. And the obvious, in my opinion, explanation is like when they go around Saturn or something, they go, their course takes them in through different gravitational fields. And the obvious answer is just because, their gravity is being tugged on. And whenever you tug on something gravitationally, you change the pressure inside of the object. So different parts get hot and different parts move in different directions. And, the pressure changes. And that's why comets will expel gases, jets, when they're just not being exposed to sunlight, but when they're being exposed to a change in their the gravity influence. So that seems like an obvious explanation. I've never heard it ever discussed. I can't think of any circumstance where anybody talked about, why is the Earth molten on the inside? And the obvious answer, in my opinion, is gravity. That's why. There's a whole bunch of stuff trying to get to the center of the Earth. It's moving 10 meters per second per second. It's accelerating 10 meters per second per second. Well, not as you go deeper, it gets less and less and less, but I just mean the stuff on the surface is 10 meters per second, and that's the pressure that's going to be felt at the center. So all all the stuff moving is pushing, is banging. So and that's essentially the same as some new thing hitting. Old stuff pushing is the same as an asteroid crashing. There's not really any difference. And so you have all this mass on the outside. There's a big ton of mass because as things are spherical, there's more surface on the outside. The surface of a sphere is bigger than the center. I mean, it's just kind of obvious, but you know what I mean. So there's a lot of mass experiencing 10 meters per second acceleration towards the center, and that pressure has to go through all of the mass, the matter that's between the center and the surface, and that pressure just keeps building up, and that pressure equals heat. Pressure is closely associated with causing heat because pressure is essentially compressing atoms, which means any little bits between them are going to bounce more. It's like the ping pong battle's getting closer. There's going to be more bounces. And so it's going to heat up just from everything being compressed into closer and closer association. It's like if human beings did this all day, their arms moved, you could sort of understand that if I had 100 people in a room, there's going to be a certain amount of hitting each other, breaking pieces off of each other, even if they were knives, we're swinging knives. And yeah, if I double the number of people, you could sort of understand that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of little bits getting cut off. And that could be represented as heat. And so, yeah, so everything that gets big, that pressure gets higher and higher. So the bigger the thing gets, the more massive it is, the higher the pressure. And not necessarily, certainly, but you can assume that the higher the pressure, the higher the temperature. But it sort of depends on what the inside is made out of, I would think. So is there some new comment? I don't know. Something moved. A good night for physics. That's not helpful either as a comment, actually. It doesn't appear to be a good night from everybody else's perspective. I mean, I'm always doing physics. It's nobody else seems to know how to do it. Um, so anyway, so you can just sort of imagine, comets start getting into the range of size where you could sort of understand that their gravity is going to be getting realer and realer. Maybe it's only 2 feet per second, or maybe it's a foot per second. I mean, it's got to be much smaller than that. It's got to be like a few inches, per second gravity. But the point is that that's when the pressures start being felt, when you start getting things that are 10 or 15 miles across, maybe. And then they start to heat up in the center. And that's why comets jet, is because they're sort of really hot in the middle and really cold on the outside. And you can sort of imagine that if you could create such a thing that got hot in this, it's like putting something in a microwave. Sometimes it explodes. I mean, food items, because of this effect, because of the very reason that the stuff in the center starts heating up before the stuff on the surface does, and the pressure blows the food apart. So I like pig butts. I cannot lie. Oh, that's really interesting. Not. Go play in traffic. Seriously. You just want to have the war. Why don't we just drone the fucking trolls? Kill trolls. Seems like should be proposed in the UN. Let's all just agree, kill them on sight. Yes. Run them over with your car. You see one crossing the street, kill it. All right. So anyway, so I thought that was a useful observation. Should be worthy of some conversation, but it sort of explains where the energy for gravity comes from, in the sense that you can sort of get that the reason why the Earth always has gravity, even though it's not moving in any particular direction, is because technically it really is moving both ways. It's moving this way and it's moving this way, and it's really doing it. And the trick is, it's in here in the center is where that gets all mixed up and compensated for. But there's a real imbalance created by the real acceleration of real stuff in these directions. And yeah, so that's why the light is always on. The gravity light is on, is because the matter that's on the surface of the Earth is actually creating gravity by accelerating and absorbing force to accelerate. Yeah. Um, yeah, mostly. It can, yes, I think it's a good enough explanation. I don't know if I want to go deeper than that. Or getting to the more complex idea of the fact that somewhere it has to go circular to, um, you know, to make the actual center of gravity probably is like the sun processing. But we're not going to notice that. All right. So, what else did I think was an important subject? Oh yeah, so I thought just in case, because it does come up now and then, the David D. Hilster guy, if he was in the room. Well, anyway, the week before, the guy had brought up briefly, and then the other snarky guy didn't want to talk about it, which I thought it's worth talking about because it's a theory that needs to be challenged. This stupid theory that the dinosaurs were big because the Earth was small. And so their evidence is that all the continents, if you put them all together, you glue them all together on a small Earth, that they all fit together. So therefore, the Earth must have been a small Earth. Where, yeah, but all you have to do is make them, we already know that all you need to do is have all the continents in a blob and separate them, and they also fit right back together because they were a blob. They were one bunch. You don't have to have them the same size as the Earth for the theory that the continents fit together to be viable. I mean, that isn't dependent on them covering the Earth. Now, the problem with this whole nonsense is we know life started in the ocean, so that's really important. Okay, is that we know the evolution, that's what happened. And, everything started in the water environment. That's why we still have salt water in our, running through us, is because we're creating an ocean for our cells to still live in. They're still ocean life. They're still living in the ocean. you know, Only this physical part walked out of the ocean. The cells that we actually make us, they never left the ocean, so to speak. Um, let's see. They wouldn't grow proportionally if the Earth grew substantially. Well, that doesn't even make any sense. So I won't bother with it. They wouldn't grow proportionally if the Earth grew substantially. Well, the whole point is that the Earth is supposed to grow slowly, not all at once. But regardless, it's still a silly theory. Just talking in terms of so their argument is the water came later. So first you had the landmass with dinosaurs on it and no water. So that's your first problem. No oceans. So that's a wrong sequence of evolution. So that doesn't work. And so then I brought up the fact that the problems it's going to create for the atmosphere are huge, but it's what about evaporation? Um, let's see, I can't read that. big, big something, big trilobite from pressure. Let's see. Well, anyway, so we know that cells are really dependent on a certain amount of pressure to keep their form. So if we substantially change the size of the Earth, you're going to substantially change the size of the atmosphere. And I don't even know if some of these elements could even stay on the surface of the Earth. Like on a small Earth, would there be enough gravity to keep oxygen on the surface? I mean, clearly gases have this tendency to expand if you let them. So if you don't have a container pushing them in, they're gone. And part of the container, I guess, in our atmosphere is the humidity so these other factors that help keep gases in the atmosphere. Now, so the water problem would be a huge one, right? Because without high air pressure, would you be able to evaporate water? I mean, these are real, that's physics, right? I mean, whether water will evaporate in low pressure is a real physics question. And they don't feel any obligation. They just say, I'm gonna state this as a viable theory, and they don't do any of this logical sequence stuff of figuring out, well, how do you explain that? So they say the earth makes water. They don't explain how the earth makes water. I mean, that's a huge statement to say that the water on earth was somehow manufactured by the earth, the oceans, and that somehow that happened, I don't know, sometime after the dinosaurs. Doesn't make any sense. Um, Certainly the salt problem you're going to run into, right? I mean, it's one thing to argue that there's fresh water inside the earth, but you have to now get seawater is what's in our blood. So, and it was inside the dinosaurs' blood, I'm quite sure also. So how are you going to explain where the seawater came from? Where did the salt water come from? And see what else. But I mean, it just seems obvious that you have a real problem with these big giant beasties being able to consume enough oxygen to do all their metabolism if the atmosphere is, half as dense. I mean, that's like being on top of Mount Everest or something. Dinosaurs aren't going to do too good up there. And then who knows what the temperature implications would be. It's a thinner atmosphere, right? I mean, maybe less capacity to do the greenhouse gas thing, so less heat. So that doesn't work. So anyway, but the whole idea that they take a simple fact, okay, that dinosaurs grew big. Well, so did everything grow big, okay? Worms were big. I think the trilobites, is what I wrote down. I think there was some trilobites, that were half-inch long, and then some trilobites that were 3 feet long. So everything in early evolution is trying all kinds of experiments. And what really, if we didn't have some evidence that dinosaurs were killed in a very brief amount of time, few 100,000 years, that it might have been just one catastrophe that wiped them out. That's a real possibility. But even if we didn't have that evidence, I could still, I think, make a very valid argument that the dinosaurs were just conceding to the fact that life was so successful on Earth, there's so much more life on land than there is in the ocean, meant that it was sinking carbon at an incredible rate from all the corpses. And clearly we know that's what oil is. So a ton of carbon is getting sunk into coal and oil and shale and all the derivatives. And so that's another claim they make. They make this preposterous claim that oil is created by the earth and that it's not the consequence of biology. And I mean, it's just such an outrageous claim to make with zero evidence provided for why that could be possible. Like how you could just undo all the fossil evidence and all the chemical evidence and all the logical evidence that we see with our own eyes in how the biosphere works, and that organisms do die, okay, and they do get folded into the soil, um, and that over geological time, it would be true that carbon in the form of the corpses of the plants and animals would be trapped permanently for a protracted period of time in the chemical elements that made up the object. So the point is the very success of the Jurassic, where organisms grew huge and did all this stuff because there was so much energy available. It was warm and there was lots of carbon to make organisms out of. And as the carbon got sunk, those elements become less and less available, and and the temperature starts going down because you're pulling carbon out of the atmosphere and sinking it into the ground. So clearly the temperature would start to go down. And as the temperature went down, being really big would be really bad. And that's, rational and sensible argument. So even without a meteor impact, a calamity of some kind, it still looks like the dinosaurs were doomed. Just rationally, you can say, because the world was going to get colder, because the biosphere was going to make more and more oil. It wasn't making less and less oil. There wasn't some point where it'd say, we have peak oil. We've made all the oil we need. Don't make any more oil. I mean, there wasn't any mechanism to stop all of the carbon from being sunk eventually. So you can almost argue that without the dinosaurs dying off and the planet getting colder, if the Jurassic would have continued, it would have sunk all the carbon by now. And so there'd be even more oil and more coal and more shale and all that crap in the ground, and there'd be less life on Earth, and it'd be really cold here. Because that would have been the consequence of continuing to sink carbon. And I think it's a really viable, sensible, rational theory. But you can't, they're not going to counter argue any of these perfectly rational points. Instead, they'll give an hour presentation of silly propaganda about how, look, the continents fit together and dinosaurs are really big. And if gravity's only half as much, then being big isn't a big deal anymore. When, well, being big isn't that big a deal even when gravity is high, as long as you have big giant legs and all that shit. So, in a less dense atmosphere, flight's going to get a little trickier too. Lots of things get more difficult, not easier. So anyway, so that's a good subject to argue just as a truther theory. It's another, we're going to argue the conventional theory with a real pile of pseudoscience, just absolute made up crap that has only a superficial little appearance of being sensible. And that's all it needs, just the appearance, a few little facts fit, and that's all they need to say we have a complete theory. And it's just it makes all dissident science look bad. So yeah, it's bad for science. So anyway, so what else did I want to get to the subject of the speed of light, because they also think light is something that has a variable speed, and these electric universe nutters. Sorry, but that's how I have to think. I mean, it's nutty. So I actually did see a video clip by the Carruthers guy, Steve Carruthers, I think. One of the important characters in this electric universe. And he actually says this. He says, our biological processes in our brain couldn't possibly work unless there's some mechanism moving faster than the speed of light. And it's kind of ironic to me, just because my biggest gripe with I mean, one of my gripes with being what we are, human, and our brains, even though they're incredible in what they can do, when you just think how slowly we really do process stuff, and how long it takes me to say what I'm trying to say, and all the extra words, and how it's such a sloppy kind of, it's this sloppy and it's really slow. The conscious process is really slow. And to sit there and, talk about how fast it's going, it's really slow relative to the speed of light. I mean, this is really, ma'am, I mean, you could go, you would spin back and forth inside my brain a trillion times in 1 second, at the speed of light, more than a trillion, trillions of times, whatever. I mean, there's a lot of work that can be done in those tiny quantities of time. And I'm just saying, I struggle with just even getting this sentence, presented um, in a manner that's as fast as you could receive it. I can't talk as fast as you can listen, and that's irritating. Um, but there's just no evidence. There's absolutely nothing to cling to as evidence. I mean, not only is there evidence weak, because it has to be, because there just isn't any evidence of this faster than force thing, this faster than the fastest, faster than the speed of gravity or the speed of magnetism or the speed of light. Yes, they're all the same speed. There's no evidence that anything goes faster than that. And so there's no evidence. And even if there was some glimmer of some evidence somewhere, well, that would count as very weak evidence, right? Because it can only be a glimmer of evidence. There's going to be a tiny bit of evidence. So at best, it's an incredibly weak argument to defend. Insanely weak. And yet they do it. They say this stuff. And you're saying, first off, I don't know why they're saying it, because I think you can still do your electric universe theory without creating stuff that moves faster than the speed of light. I think you could still do it. I guess they think the craters on the moon were created by things like almost instantaneous forces that I don't know. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so I'm thinking, why are they doing this? Why are they making these claims that aren't essential to their theory? You could still have an electric universe theory and accept the speed of light. So why are they deliberately making claims that aren't fundamental to their theory that, in a sense, prove that it's rubbish as science? So they're giving you evidence they're giving me evidence, or giving a skeptic evidence to discount their theory for non-essential reasons, to defend aspects of the theory that really aren't important. Why is it important to believe that something moves faster than the speed of light? Just to be a naysayer? Just to be saying physics got everything wrong. They don't even know that the speed of light isn't fixed. Yeah, they're stupid. Is just for that? Are you're destroying your own credibility for that? Just to I don't get it. So, all right, and then the big subject that I think should really be easy to understand, but people keep messing it up, I think. Are they just keep avoiding it? I'm going to mark it in red so I know to keep emphasis. I got to make some really tight arguments on this exact subject, because this is the big one. This is the one where they all fail. Is the energy problem. So, you have gravity and you have magnetism. Now, magnets are really obvious. I mean, gravity's obvious. I mean, this is pretty obvious. And we know that if that was going sideways and all of a sudden something just moved sideways, you'd say, what hit it? What force made it move? If this went sideways by magic, I just sat here and did a magic trick and made it go sideways. you'd say, where's the trick? Okay, I mean, how did you make it go sideways? Because you'd say a force had to do it. Something had to make it do it. And that something would be in a form you would always call energy, something energetic, some force, something with some heat, some little bits, some laser beam, some, something you'd say had to push it to make it go across, to make it go this way across. Can't just magically do it. Yet this, we just say, no, it's okay, it's free. We don't have to burn anything. We don't have to put gasoline in it. The space shuttle can't just make the space shuttle move. Can't just say move and it moves. Right? So we know what it takes to move space shuttles. It takes a force. It takes energy. You have to free energy. You have to release something that has pressure, and releasing the pressure, expansion. You take something that's confined and you expand it, and you know that creates this ability to push things. And that's what the space shuttle is doing. It's getting pushed into space, just as anything's getting pushed somewhere. And so here we have the most prevalent mover in the universe, gravity. First, they call it a weak force. It's moving galaxies, and they call it a weak force. It's taking the big, heavy Earth and bending it into a spiral orbit. It wants to go straight, and it's getting, the big, heavy Earth. A few hundred nuclear bombs wouldn't be enough to move the Earth. I don't know how many it would take. I mean, I wonder, it'd be an interesting thing just to know as a piece of trivia. How many megatons of energy would you need to expel from a rocket engine on the Earth to be able to keep the Earth in its orbit for one day? How much energy would it take to divert the Earth's path, as the sun's gravity does? And they call it a weak force, right? So, all right. So here you have something that's moving everything in the universe. It's everywhere, and it's moving shit all over the place, moving it all over the place. Now, even if you say it spent space, you have to explain. You can't just say, well, because the space is bent, that creates energy. It can't really create energy, right? The only way they make this obey conservation laws is that they're basically saying it's free in because they know it's expensive out. So this part that looks free, where the thing's falling in, that looks free. But technically it's not free, because if you ever want to leave, you have to you have to expend a bunch of space shuttle rocket engine to leave. So then it's conservational in the sense that, yeah, you have to give back as much energy as you got moving. So this going in was free, no real source of it. Where did it come from? Magic. And you know that it's not magic, the energy you'll have to use to get away. So to leave the surface of the Earth, it's always real energy. You can't leave the surface of the Earth without expending real energy. Now you can go to the surface of the Earth for free. So, but anyway, there's clearly no explanation. The Earth doesn't get lighter. The sun doesn't get lighter. Neither thing is burning any energy. There's no batteries. There's no explanation for what gets burned, what gets consumed, what gets converted to create the movement. Now, magnetism is a similar example, and I'd say in some ways even more obvious in terms of it's right in front of you. The two magnets smashing together, or the two magnets repelling. You're pushing both of them, and you can't push them into each other. It's so fucking obvious that I'm using energy here and I'm using energy here, and I still can't get the job done. That obviously whatever's fighting back is a real force. There's something real there, not virtual photon bullshit, not perturbation nonsense. There's not a there's not a nothing. There has to be a something. There has to be a real force. There has to be something that's causing it. And then you can understand that, yes, the cause is that it's always things being pushed. And it just has to do with where the push is coming from. You know, pushed by compression of pressure. That is, ping pong paddles getting closer and closer with ball bouncing between them. And that resistance is what makes it, I can't push them together because there's too many hits. And that is obvious. And then it's obvious that when they're attracting, there's force on the outside, no ping pong balls on the inside, and they just move right into each other because the external force. So the energy is coming from the environment. It's coming from the outside. And even if you believe there's an ether, you have to concede the ether is not made out of dead stuff. The ether isn't like an ocean, just a bunch of little molecules not going anywhere, doing anything. No, the ether has to be energetic, full of energy. And to me, this is a really good argument to understand why conventional physics is vacuous. I mean, it's so bad not to account for these huge sources of energy. And then these challenging theories from the dissidents that also don't do the same thing. They have a dead ether. They have no explanation for where the energy comes from, the origin of the movement, the first cause for the movement. The movement has to have a cause. There has to be something else that moved before the two things moved into each other. Something else moved to make them move. And they don't account for any of it. All right. So Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber is doing physics. You're just so adorable. Oh, Christ. Some guy who probably looks like my anus, and he's they always have to say, "Oh, look, you have long hair. That's not acceptable." Whatever. I mean, and in the context of Albert Einstein, the most famous physicist in the universe, Albert Einstein, and his hair joke would totally fail, right? Because Einstein had that hair. I mean, it's just hilarious, right? Yes, it is hilarious. Ugh. I really wish we could just. I wish we were still more overtly bugs, and that we had like pores that shot acid or something, and you could just dissolve other people. you know, they just deserve it. Oh, creepy pricks. I mean, they're not pricks. They are skanky anuses. No balls, no ability to have a real man up fight, have a little bit of integrity. No, just, throwing banana peels. Alexander Zaptia. If I like this or not. I remember an old video where the science illustrates every force can be explained with a magnetic force analog. Well, that's good. The way we can explain electricity with water, I don't know how you do that, but with magnetism, not water. The way we can explain electricity with water, I guess you mean voltage and current. So it's not really water, it's fluids, but okay. But with magnetism, not water. Well, frankly, you're not going to do it well if you don't understand that the key part of magnetism is the polarization, the two poles of the magnet. So if you don't understand that magnetism is essentially the the it's charge. Charge is the function, and more rudimentary maybe than magnetism is the fact that the electron and the proton have charge, and magnetism is just when you line up the imbalances in the charge, you've automatically created a filter that creates magnetism. But it's charge is doing the real work. So again, it's always difficult to say, but I just don't see how you can do those illustrations without recognizing charge, not just magnetism. And certainly the traditional notions of magnetism, people think the magnets are attracted when no, they're pushed into each other. But whatever. So I'm not confident that whatever you remember was well done. Because I like the idea, but obviously you do it wrong, then I'm not going to like the idea. So I probably wasn't implemented well because most people's understanding of magnetism is really bad. And I mean, by really bad, I mean really, really bad. My point is that they, I don't know who they is, can come up with a magnetism device that works to illustrate the force. Uh, what does that have to do with? I don't know. What is that even saying? My point is that they, so you mean conventional physics, I guess, can come up with a magnetism device. You mean a magnet, a magnetism device that works to illustrate the force. What force? The force of magnetism? Yeah, I'm sure they can come up with a gravity device that illustrates gravity. Whatever. My point being, another that its properties seem to be fundamental and generalizable. What properties? I've just illustrated how no, the properties are fooling you. There's no attraction, and the repulsion is as obvious as two ping pong ball paddles and a ball bouncing back and forth, and you can just watch it right here as I'm illustrating it. I'm moving the two things together. You can almost hear the ball bouncing faster and faster and faster. That means it's hitting more and more times with exactly the same impact each time it hits. That's more pressure. Pressure. Yeah, okay. I'm just saying I'm fairly certain I'm not going to be impressed by the video, but go ahead and find it. I don't even know what you're trying to assert. I mean, I would argue that magnetism is the fundamental elemental mechanism, but you have to understand it in the electrical context of monopoles. The proton and the electron are the magnetic monopoles. If you don't understand that, you're not going to have much hope of getting magnetism right. Well, that's not entirely true because I got it right before I realized that. But obviously, I got it right because I did the electron and the proton, not because I was thinking of magnets, but because I was thinking of electrons and protons. And once you figure out how they work, then you know what magnetism is. I just don't know how important it is to try to say which force is more elemental, gravity, electrical, magnetic, nuclear. Well, you can almost argue the nuclear forces have to be. But clearly, the ones they talk about, strong and weak, don't have anything to do with the real nuclear forces, which are the interactions between electrons and electrons, protons and protons, protons and electrons. They're not really talking about those interactions explicitly enough. They're talking about specific circumstances where a strong force is, well, you must have a really strong force if you can push two protons together. Well, that's not what's really happening. You're not pushing two protons together. You're putting a neutron in, and the neutron has an electron and a proton, and it's the electron in between that's letting the protons move right next to each other. The protons no longer feel each other's force when there's an electron between them. And so they can get right next to each other and it's all okay because the electron takes care of it all. They really have made such a mess out of forces. Even like I said, the photon argument where they gave, and when they give the electron the frequency, I mean, that the Broglie thing, that one is such a crime against reasoning. I should write that down. It's just so wrong to sit there and say electrons have a frequency when they don't. That's just wrong. Just because they have a velocity and that gives them a certain momentum, they've established that momentum for an electron is the same as frequency for a photon, and they're not the same thing. It's just a huge stinking cheat. Let's see. I am thinking is relevant to unification. Well, I know, but I've already done it. So I'm very unified. It's done. The root explanation you are chasing after, I don't need it. I already have it. So I don't know. You're saying I'm chasing after an explanation. Haven't through this whole video, haven't I been doing the explaining? I'm not chasing explanations. I have the explanations. You're not getting how this works. I'm really disappointed in Puro, that Puro stooped to the low level of making a public video. Well, I think it's just funny, that somebody would waste a title on a video, and when he didn't even really spend much time in the video describing anything, any of my real crimes. I'm subbing from Invendum Dress Science YouTube channels. I just think it's funny in the context of where he did it in this room, right? I mean, it's made public. He says goodbye or something. I didn't know what the hell he was talking about, but I guess he was just saying, I'm done with you. And what did I just do? I just demonstrated how he's full of shit. He says things that he has no reason, he has no evidence they're true. So he made this assertion that none of the cosmic lensing pictures have actual little stars in the galaxies that's getting lensed, and stuff like that. And I demonstrate, no, that's just crap. There's tons of them. You can tell what's being lensed because you can see the little stars in the galaxy. Just that kind of thing. So I called him on his bullshit again, and that's when he quit. So that's to his discredit. Anyway, so penis vagina. Hello, Gary. That color looks great on you. Yeah, well, lots of colors look good on me. It's just the way it works. I just happen to be, charming and such. It is hard to pick a favorite, though. I think I look good in tan. Tan goes good with the hair, but whatever. PNV. I don't know what that means, so I don't know what to say. Oh, okay, penis vagina. Okay, got it. I think I missed out on the De Broglie vids. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't title any De Broglie, but I've been complaining about it in a lot of videos. I've complained about De Broglie. I mean, it's such a cheat. I mean, to unify the math by, you know, converting velocity into a frequency. I mean, by this stupid law, you could say that a car has a frequency of 75 kilohertz when it's going 50 miles an hour. I mean, even though it's not at a frequency at all, it doesn't have any of the components of a frequency. It has no wave function at all. They're just imposing it on it because it has a momentum. I mean, it's just fucking idiotic. No, I mean, it's dishonest. It's just breaking vocabulary. But that's all they do, right? They just keep breaking vocabulary. Bent space. It's not really bent. They admit it's not bent. You know, dark matter. Oh, it's not really matter, is it doesn't do anything matter does except for create gravity. So all the other stuff it doesn't do. So it's just dark gravity. Yeah. Why don't you just call it what it is instead of lying and calling it matter when it's not really matter? But yeah, just words are, and then they use particle. Well, everything's a particle. Yeah. Electron, proton, atom's a particle, compound's a particle, bowling ball's a particle. Everything's a particle. You can't, you can't do that shit. They're fundamentally different things. An atom, an electron, and a photon. They're three distinctly different fucking things. You can't call them the same. Yeah, dark light. That's pretty funny. I'm sure it could be could be the cause too, right? That would be just as good as dark matter would be dark light. Um, did you watch Piro's Google Hangout he recently did with Skyzer, Gray Text? Oh, Skyzer was in it? Oh. That was the video before last. Yeah, so I saw the Skyzer one, and Skyzer's just such a room wrecker. I just can't listen to him. You know what I mean? Even if he was, I mean, it's a great illustration, in my opinion, about how like racism in America isn't really about race, it's about culture. This Skyzer, England is a really good example because these Liverpool people, they have like all these bad black habits. You know what I'm saying? Like what happened to black culture happened to Liverpool culture. And they talk shit. They they're rude, they're vulgar. They don't pronounce the words, lazy, all that bad stuff. And so clearly it's not about black culture. It's just about poor culture. And this Kaiser is, you just can't listen to him. He's so fucking obnoxious. He can't articulate anything in any kind of like pleasant manner. There's not a single, he doesn't have a single mannerism that isn't fucking obnoxious. And Bark Lord has always been just a daydreamer. La 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 la, hopey popey. And that Sugar Ron guy or whatever, he's like some kind of Christian kook or something. Fucking another guy who doesn't talk very well. And but yeah, he's like some kind of Nazi, for fuck's sake. And Gray Tex, forget it. Gray Tex is, he isn't the man he used to be. Yeah, he just isn't. Just doesn't have anything interesting to say. He's just, it's all about the witticism. Can I form a witticism that'll make a drunk person laugh? That's about all he's got now to live for, is his little snarky witticisms. So anyway, let's see if there's anything else here. Um, why? Lots about physics. Why? Why? I don't know what that is. Anyway, um, yeah. So I think I covered everything that was on my little note list. Let's see, 100% deflected the wrong way. Well, that's interesting. What is that about? Yeah, I'm not sure. So we're running out of comments, so give you a couple of minutes here. If you can't come up with something, then I'll be toddling and such. Moving on. Yeah, well, I mean, really, so you think I should bother with a video called The Circle of Magnetism when you've sort of heard what I've had to say? you know, uh, this is probably a theory that again thinks there's energy moving inside of the magnet going like this and going like this and creating hyperboloids and toroids and all kinds of crap when all it is a filter. It's just a piece of filter paper. Just it's a piece of um let's see, there's probably some kid's toy that does this kind of simple process. The small marbles go this way, the big marbles go that way. The machine doesn't do anything, it just diverts marbles. He oats fine. I don't know what that is. Give it a try. He eats fine. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying, do you think I mean I'm almost thinking I've seen this video, Circle of Magnetism. you know, I'm almost suspicious they had some sort of machine, you know, that vibrates and makes noises. He's like right on the verge of inventing the magnetron science something, you know, some kind of, you know, magnet device. Yeah, well, I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a waste of my time. I mean, even that name, Eric Lithuania, I think somebody else posted me the videos about this whack job. So I'm just saying, I mean, I don't know why you think I have to debunk every truther kook in the world to do this job I have. I mean, why do I have to go point out how his Tesla theory of magnetism is horseshit? I'm defending my theory. No pressure. Yeah, well, you brought up the pressure of somehow it's supposed to be relevant, and I'm supposed to think it's relevant. And that's just always, this is supposed to be something relevant. Well, I'm not sure it is. Yeah, I know, but I stated I've already done all the research I need to do. I've done my job here. I have a relatively complete theory. I don't want to be a professional physicist. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't. I just want to fix this broken part and move on. Let the mathematicians play with this mush who care about that kind of precision. I don't. Um, yeah. So, but whatever. I mean, I've already watched so much crap. I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of everything I watch is crap. Yeah, well, half the day is, he's got issues. But yeah, he has gotten slower and slower with time. Um, yeah, well, he's not making videos anymore, but yeah, something's better than nothing. But I'd just rather have something on the subject of my theory. Arguing with some guy who in 1969 or 1968 has some wacky, whatever, vibrating magnetron machine. I don't know why I should waste my time doing that. I mean, I'd rather argue with people who are obnoxious trolls, frankly, than to waste my time looking at another truth or theory that I have to debunk. I mean, Alexander Zaptia guy. I mean, I just, you're clearly indicating that somehow you don't think I have a convincing argument here, and I haven't convinced you that this is yes, this is the explanation for the function, and somehow you think I need to go find some other Tinkerbell theory to fix my theory with some sort of Tinkerbell bullshit. I don't think it needs to be fixed. I think it works fine. Well, this book crap is also more crap. Sorry, that's just a bullshit argument. First off, nobody reads books anyway. It's just silly, especially physics books by nobody. Okay, yeah, anonymous physics writer. Go look up the books and find out how many of those sold by anonymous physics writer. The unknown physicist. Yeah, go see how many books he sold. What I need is a fair opportunity to argue with a editor, a physics editor, they one of the gatekeepers who decide what is or is not viable physics theory. Well, I mean, who do you think read the Principia thingy? You think the common man bought that book? Or do you think other scientists read it? I mean, it was written by Newton, by the way, an already famous Newton. So, again, this asshole. So he thinks I am as boring as Holiday. That's a satire here. But Gary is edge of your seat fascinating to listen to. Well, there are people who actually say that. I mean, they love listening to my voice, even if I'm saying absolute shit. So yes, that just happens to be another truth. But yes, regardless, I think I'm a lot more content focused, a lot more listening to a bull than Hofladay. I'm certainly speak in a more, you know, except for this, not right now, um, coherent and speedy manner. So anyway, just fuck off, idiot. Bro, just do it. Well, you can go fuck yourself. I'm not your bro, so fuck you. I'll give you a timeout for that one. Should just delete you forever. I have stuff on the website. I have 800 videos. This idiotic argument that somehow I haven't made the argument until it's in some book where I'm just going to say the same thing in the book that I said in the videos. Now, obviously, I would like to have a nice, concise write up of my entire theory, but it is physics, you stupid cunt. Go read Ken Wheeler's book. It's a very popular book on magnetism. Yeah. You think the book is any good? Do you think it does him any good? Do you think it proves his case in some way, you fucking idiot? A pile of shit. People read physics books by famous people because they can talk about how we discovered something, and they can tell little stories about what it was like to meet Einstein and blah 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 blah. It's trivial science. The only kind of book I want to write is going to be like a textbook, like a college textbook. Right? A college textbook isn't going to be a fun read. Asshole. Ugh. So another cowboy sock account, no doubt. College textbook, right? Yeah, well, exactly. Talking about how electrons function, how these are from people who can't answer simple little questions I've asked. Why don't you answer the simple question, little gangster? Why don't you answer them? If I'm an idiot, why don't you prove me an idiot by answering the questions? Oh, yeah, no, that's too hard for you because that would require you to do something honest, and you can't do anything honest. I'm just saying there's no evidence. The stuff I've written on the website is not very charming writing. It's just pointing out that, look, this is a kinetic interaction. Two things go in, two things come out. Now, if I don't make one of them black and one of them red, you won't be able to tell whether the two things hit each other or missed each other entirely. You can't tell whether they bounced off of each other. Nothing. Can't tell. Can't tell one universe from the next universe from the next universe. The three causes and effects all have the same effect. The end result of all any one of the three choices happening all look exactly the same. That's called a textbook, idiot. And how have you refuted any of those arguments? Oh, that's right, you haven't. You haven't made a single rational, relevant counter argument. You just don't like Gary. Because he is better at everything than you are. And you resent that. You're jealous. Oh. And such. Now, let's see how many viewers now. And I'll decide whether to get the hell out of here. It's gonna be hot tomorrow, 95 or something. So that'll be good. I'll get warm. 21. Well, that's not bad. But yes, not much in the comments. Okay, took a peek. Looks like that vid demonstrates experiments indicating push having something to do with magnetism. Okay, much like what's proposed here. Haven't seen it all yet. All right, well, I'm not at all confident. I think I did copy the name of it. I suppose I can pop it into something here. Let's see. Yeah, Sean Carroll. We can do without his fucking video.
He showed all this made sense.
Yeah, fuck you. You're an idiot. Oh, such a pompous douche. Yeah, I see. See, this is isn't that? Didn't I just describe this? People are such assholes. I mean, I just described his machine, his wonder machine, right? And here it is, right here. The fucking, it's exactly what I was saying. I've seen this idiot. The fucking lunatic. Oh, I just hate you people. Oh, so let's play some of it. It ought to be funny. In cooperation with the Spinning Ball Society of the Dippity Doo Daughters. Look at that, it's just like a magnet. The water goes up and the ball goes spin, and there it's stuck there in the vortex of the speediats. Look at me, I can shoot a gun. What the fuck? All right, I don't remember this part. He is a nut. Oh, yeah, thanks. That's really cool physics. Yes, shoot another cork at your whatever, just to prove you're a good shot. Oh, you missed, douche.
Oh, well, you can't win them all, can you? Now, what am I, a professor of electrical engineering, doing potting at ping pong balls?
I don't know.
It's not just that I think science ought to be fun. I do have a serious purpose in mind. And it isn't the shooting part that interests me.
It should be fun. You know, no, it really shouldn't be. If you logically think about it, all logic isn't really fun because you're taking things that are broken, that don't fit. So it's like, I guess people have fun doing puzzles. So I guess that part can be fun, solving puzzles. But if you had to do it to save your life or something, you wouldn't say it was fun. Like to get to the grocery store, if you had to solve some stupid hard puzzle, you're like, I just want to get a bag of potato chips. And you're like, oh, fuck, I got to do all these calculations. You wouldn't say that was fun. What if 3 of them hit each other at the exact same time? I don't know what that means. Then you can tell there was an interaction. What if 3 of them hit each other at exact same? Time doesn't matter. Kinetic is kinetic. It's all at once and for the sake of argument, instantaneous. And we're only talking about 2 interactions anyway. We're talking about 2 things interacting. Now the 2 things can go through each other, they can bounce off of each other, or they can miss each other. Those are the 3 possible reactions. So you're not really understanding the point. But the point is no matter which one happens, it always looks the same. It's going to look like an X. The outcome is going to be exactly the same no matter which one happens. I came late into the live stream, haha. I did not know. I don't know what you didn't know, but that's really weird. Came late into the live stream. I did not know. You did not know what? I don't know. Whatever. I don't like his suit. Well, you're being a woman again. Damn. Yeah, I mean, suits, clothes were pretty crappy back then. I have to concede. I lived back then, so I know. I had a wool suit as a child. Yes, but what if the 3 hit each other at the same time? Okay, we did that crap. All right, let's go back to the other crazy
It's how these balls stay suspended on the water jets that really fascinates me.
Okay.
You could ask, of course, what an electrical engineer is doing dabbling in hydraulics anyway. And the answer is that I can see what is actually going on. You see, my own subjects are electricity and magnetism, and both of these are invisible. I'm trying to make a model of what might actually go on in a magnetic circuit, which behaves in exactly the same way as this water circuit. In other words, I'm trying to make the invisible...
It doesn't behave exactly the same way. It's not exactly the same. It's like maybe possibly a tiny bit similar, but it's not anywhere close to exactly the same. The shadow looks like a turtle. Turtles.
Visible. Now, the thing about analogs is that you need to know just how far they can be useful and just when you have to shoot them down. I want you to see this as a circuit.
Right. And so, yes, the analog is useful in the sense that it doesn't have much to do with reality. Okay. So, yes, the concession. Hey.
See, when the water has hit the ball, it falls back into the trough and then is returned through pipes back to the pump. Now, of course, we can make the whole thing neater by enclosing it all in pipes, like this. In this circuit, the driving member is here, the pump. This is a valve or switch. When I open the valve, you will see a plunger rise in this tube here. This is recording the rate of flow of the water. Here is a manometer, recording the pressure difference between 2 points in the circuit. The manometer is connected in here and in here, so that it measures the pressure in this piece of pipe there. And this water circuit has been designed to be the analog of an electric circuit, like this.
Yes, nice modern electric circuit. All right, so this could go on forever before we get to the magnetic part. But yeah, I don't remember this exact video, to tell you the truth. So I will play the rest of it later and see if I absorb anything horribly interesting out of it. It doesn't sound all bad, but you know, yeah, blah 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 blah. I mean, we already know that voltage is push, so but I don't know how you're going to turn that into magnetism beyond recognizing that once you create a voltage and a push, what you're pushing is electrons and moving them, and so therefore you're lining them up like a magnet, and so now you're creating a magnet out of the electrons, and that has a consequence. All right, it's true. It's not exactly the same. Later, he admits it when his magnet does not simulate water tension, keeping the balls in place. Okay. Have you ever had a homosexual experience? Not in reality, you know. Well, I don't know. What is, you know, I guess it depends on what's homosexual. You know. I never kissed a guy, or I never, you know, did anything with his privates. Yeah, I mean, I never touched a penis. Let's say, yeah, I've never done that, except mine, of course. But no, that's not exactly homosexual. Need your email. We'll try any one of a dozen. Actually, draft physics will work if you use my Gary at. Yeah, I think that'll work. Draft physics, yeah, draftphysics.com should work. Yeah, I don't know why people care about people's sexual behavior, but whatever. It's not the kind of thing I'd ever bother asking somebody. Says, you know, but whatever. Yeah, I don't really, you know, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, well, I'm not doing a. Yeah, we're not doing sex chat. I don't know if it's a very cool channel. I'm just very hostile now. I'm becoming more and more. I just have to kill everybody on Earth, and then I win. You know, I'll just take the Nobel Prize and give it to myself after everyone's dead. You know, fuck you people. I don't need you to tell me what the truth is. I already know. Fucking idiots. He says at some point when playing with magnets, the concept of pull would be hard to use. Good. That's good of him. That made me remember the video that you have a vendetta against the concept of pull with no explanation. What the fuck are you talking about? Against the concept of pull. Okay, so you're saying that I don't like the idea of somebody saying there's pull with no explanation? Clearly I'm saying that there's no, every time somebody says something's a pull, I will make the argument and show them that it's a push. You have to just look for it. There's no pull that I can't point out how, no, it's actually a push. Who are you calling an idiot? I don't know. Did I call you an idiot? You said very cool channel. I said, no, I'm just, I'm kind of hostile and fed up. Something like that. Or whatever. I'll call you an idiot if that's what you want. I mean, I just, the point of the room is to discuss physics. I don't know if you got that where it says like talk physics in the title. It's something to do with talking about physics. You know, they have ones with touch screens now. I don't know what that means. All binged up too. Blinged up. All blinged up too. So I don't even know what that means. They have ones with touch screens. Bizarre. Thinking of taking a physics class, as I know very little of the subject. From what I gather from watching bits of this channel, a lot of modern physics is wrong. Well, it's weakly evidence. Let's just say that, let's just use the minimum statement. I know it's wrong, but I'm just saying what we should, as all reasonable people, should be able to all agree on is that much of physics is weakly evidenced. Lots of conclusions, lots of speculation based on really, really, really tiny amounts of evidence. All right. Up to what point do they have it right? Well, as I've sort of said in my writings that no one seems to appreciate, frankly, post Newton, pre Einstein, it all went south with bent space and quantum mechanics. So that's when they changed quantum electrodynamics into quantum mechanics. Yeah, they left the building. There will be no more reasoning taking place in physics. And Newton was a careful scientist. He didn't talk about what he didn't know. He talked about what he could prove. And, big difference from the modern physicists who just make shit up and then say, prove me wrong. I don't have any evidence for what I'm saying, so prove me wrong. That's what physics turned into. Prove me wrong. I just made up a story. Prove it wrong. So what have you added to the puzzle? A unification theory, fuckhead. Now I'll call you an idiot. Puzzle being the picture of nature. I'm not doing a picture of nature. It's called physics. Nature is some other silly word used to describe, processes more relevant to biological organisms. Our understanding of nature. So again, it's really not. It's physics. It's understanding the cause and effect mechanisms. I also suck at math. It's you have to learn math. Math is math, so, calculus is a pain in the ass, in my opinion. But you have to do it if you want to take physics, you're going to have to, because that's all they test you on is math. They don't test you on reasoning skills. I am wasting my time. Should I just read a textbook? Well, they have all the wrong answers in it, so I guess I'd say no. But I don't know what to say. Being familiar with understanding what's in Maxwell's equations would be good. Understanding the concept of the inverse square law and distance and radiant forces and deviation over distance and all that stuff is in mechanical stuff is worth knowing. I mean, watch some physics lectures. Yep, I saw that one guy talk about other dimensions, and I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, well, dimensions are silly. There's 3 dimensions in the physical world, and that's it. There ain't anything else. It's up, down, forward, back, left, right. That's all. Nothing else. I always just assumed I wasn't smart enough, but Gary makes sense. Yeah, well, like again, you know, I appreciate what you're saying, but obviously it doesn't do me any good to have people who don't know what they're saying say something nice. So I need people who matter, you know, but I appreciate it nonetheless. So what have you added to my mouse pointer's in the way? It. What have I added to what? They don't have an it, idiot. Now you're really being an idiot. They have no unification theory. They have a silly nonsense of bent space and Heisenberg-Huygens. They have these 2 silly mechanisms that make things move in funny ways. They're not even compatible mechanisms. It's complete nonsense. I have a theory where one, force, and the idea of force and matter, 4 simple rules, answers every question about gravity, magnetism, and all the nuclear interactions. That's what I've added to it. Shit for brain. But you have to watch some of the videos to understand any of that. This dumb bitch's name, LOL. That doesn't seem necessary, whatever that is. Justin. It is the perfection of all God's works. I'm not going to like this. That they are done with the greatest simplicity. I don't like that. Obviously the Occam's razor thing. If you have 2 answers, one of them's insanely complicated and one of them's rudimentary and elementally simple, and the evidence is equal in all other respects, you go with the simple answer. The world must endeavor to reduce their knowledge, science, to all possible simplicity. Yes, reductionism is the name of the game. And so good. Newton got that part right. Yes, Gary, Gary is very talented at putting things in layman terms. Yes, this is true. Where did you do your dissertation? Yeah, well, I usually do that in the bathroom. Jeez, kind of a personal question. I mean, quite obviously, you don't have to do any formal crap to understand crap, to learn crap. I was an auto mechanic. I never went to auto mechanic school, but I could fix a car. you know, there's really nothing magical in physics. I mean, as much as they make it seem like some sort of strange monastery, with all kinds of strange shit going on. It really is just about uh, creating an accurate description of the causes and the effects. More importantly, taking the effects and establishing a rational chain of cause. What is the most important fact about life in your opinion? Oh, geez, what a insanely crazy kind of question to ask. Evolution is, I guess, the answer. Once a worm, always a worm. Yeah. Once green slime, always green slime. We're still green slime. Crap, I could do that. Consumption, reproduction, uh, addiction, and parasitism. There. Let's see. Yeah, people try to use physics as justification of their spiritual science, as if there's so much mystery that we can't understand. Yes, this. Oh, we have to have an open mind. We have to change our minds because the past always gets wrong answers, and they always get a new answer that's different. That somehow that always is going to happen. You're never going to figure out that round wheels work better than square wheels. No, someday it's going to be figured out that round wheels don't. Because we're wrong about everything. I mean, I just hate that crap. Kind of why I'm drawn to understand it, to better refute those people. Well, it is just this idiotic notion that they're just holding out. They don't want a mechanical universe. They don't want to know they're a fucking deterministic robot, and they're just acting out a bunch of reflexes or responses that they've learned through silly interactions on this dopey planet, and that's all they got. No, this coconut shampoo shit again. Jesus, you're being a cliche woman again. My hair was always a little bit unmanageable, and it always will be, and that's the way it is. Ugh, people. It can be daunting, perplexing, and cause awe. Why do you think that Joe Rogan? Oh, Joe Rogan. Just because they are charming. I don't know why. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but clearly you don't want a cult of idiots, and people who have cults are cults of idiots. They don't understand. They think by admiring somebody they'll gain understanding, but they don't understand. Do you think anybody who likes Ken Wheeler or defends Ken Wheeler actually understands what Ken Wheeler's saying? Well, I don't think The Amazing Atheist has been funny in like 15 years, in internet time. I don't know. When was the last joke he made? I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's that funny anymore. He's just kind of mopey and complainy. That's all I see. And, yeah. Let's see. Well, he used to be a librarian. Who used to be a librarian? And now he thinks, oh, a libertarian. And now he thinks a liberal. Now he's a liberal, so he has improved a little. Well, I don't know how liberal he is, but whatever. TJ is a self-absorbed, he fucking he'd kill and eat his mother. I mean, he doesn't. Whatever he is for his own personal advantage. He isn't for anything but himself. Yeah, he said lots of stupid things. Yes, The Amazing Atheist talked about not being an atheist. I mean, it was really ironically silly moment in YouTube history. Yeah. The evolutionist who starts to believe in Sasquatch. It's silly. But whatever, this isn't the let's talk about TJ's unearned fame because frankly, I don't understand it. Whatever, it's what little boys do. They admire big, giant, fat people with small penises who stick bananas in their ass. Fine, that's what kids do nowadays. I'm not a kid, so I don't get it. I mean, especially now too, when you think, TJ had some hope of being a little bit interesting in terms of, at least he made some intelligent arguments about some subjects, and he could even defend horrible things pretty well. But now it's just all this pot and booze. I mean, I remember when pot doesn't make me high, you know, and and now he's a drunken pothead, and it's like, what the fuck, you know. What projects are you working on as far as physics? Well, I got the ferrofluid is sitting right here, so I want to definitely do some ferrofluid stuff, but I definitely want to do more interferometer crap. It's just a lot to do, and I only got one me to do all the stuff I want to do. I thought I would just mention that one time you fried him for promoting pedophilia. Well, he wasn't promoting it, but was defending it, which was really just kind of silly. Um, you did it standing up was quite a presentation. I don't know what that means. Okay, let's not talk about TJ. Yeah, whatever. I mean, I understand, we all have inappropriate impulses and all this kind of crap. And so it's like, you can certainly understand people wanting to do something or needing to because of some quirk in their head, like even hitting women and stuff. But you can also understand that you're smart enough to know, yeah, I just can't do it. Even if it's fun, I can't do it. He has perma burn. I don't know what that means. Perma burn. I don't know what that means. Yeah. So if I had a minion, superior mind is like the only minion this channel has, but I don't understand a damn thing he says most of the time. It's kind of funny. He's definitely intelligent. So is Paul, but yes, they're both, it's just a waste. I've said amazing wastiest, and Paul Easygo has just become as big of irrelevancy, blah, 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 blah. And just, glorifying a stupid lifestyle. Fat and drug addicted is not a brilliant plan. His Encyclopedia Dramatica article is pretty accurate. I don't know whose you're talking about, but I don't know if Paul has one. But certainly me and TJ do. The big inadequacy of TJ's article is it's not his penis in the article. I don't think they've moved it. I don't know if they repaired the page to fix, to add the new banana stuff and everything. To appear as if permanently under the influence of drugs, even when sober, from permanently fired. Okay, well, whatever. Yes, that's just a waste of. I mean, that's a stupid thing to be selling to kids. Is the idea that drugs will solve your problems. Glorifying nihilism, exactly. It's really stupid. Nihilism is arguably just as much of a coping mechanism as any religion. Well, it's more retarded than any religion. I mean, quite obviously, your own feelings are God. Okay, that truth you can't miss. Yes, cupcake versus nail in the eye. I get it. No nihilism. It makes a difference which one of those happens. I'm talking about the quote, no, the grotesquely fat atheist. Oh, okay, well, whatever, I don't care. If there is somehow a alternate reality within this one? No, there isn't. Which follows the same laws. Who cares? How will I be able to pull or receive a signal from it? I don't know. What depends on what the membrane is made out of. What would be the buffering it from interacting with owners? I just waste people's time. Why don't do we just speculate about, magic universes made out of frog eggs? Well, what if there's a frog egg universe? How would we communicate with the little tadpoles? And would they be all slimy? And wouldn't the slime get on our universe? And do you like Richard Carrier? I don't know who it is, so I guess I don't. God, my security guard job is boring. Well, you should be thanking you're getting paid to do something that you don't have to do anything. That is, I wish I had jobs like that where I didn't have to do anything but just sit in a chair and go, okay, I'm just sitting in a chair. Because I can still put my hand in my pants. I can still do stuff. Thanks for making the time go by, and not in a relativistic way either, because I can't be napping through the moments. You know what I'm saying. I'm just saying, don't complain about boring security guard jobs. It's a hell of a lot better than waiting tables. Trust me, a lot better. Let's see. I do. I don't know what I do means, but fine. I do what? Yeah. Get you in trouble saying I do. You don't want to have that bumper sticker on your car. What about Scott Clifton? I don't care. Whatever. I don't do names. I don't like names. I don't like my name. I don't like anybody else's name. I don't give a fuck about their name. I just don't care. You don't see the picture. Yeah, whatever. You lack an imagination. It's the silliest. I mean, I'm going to just block you. Is there some other response to have? I mean, I've only, have enough imagination to invent a unification theory, something Einstein, the smartest man in the universe, couldn't accomplish. And you say I lack imagination. I mean, just an amazingly stupid thing to say to me. I mean, if you want to be my friend or something, fuck you. God, I'm an incredibly creative person, you fucking cunt. Jesus, what a douche. I used to shovel rotten grain for a living and throwing 110-pound sacks of red hot in a red hot train car. Yeah, well, at least I like warm jobs, so that's good. But yeah, rotten grain can stink. It doesn't smell like dog shit, but it does. It can have it has a smell to it, like yeah, it's not the kind of thing you want to take home. I saw your response to that embarrassing imbecile Veritas 48. Oh, Jesus, that's only about 700 years ago. Back in the day, it was fucking hilarious and spot on. Yes, well, I'm always hilarious and spot on. That's one of my trademarks. Oh, wow, superior. I used to cut hair before I was disabled. Oh, her little scissor fingers got all cripply. You can snip. Oh, I can't snip anymore. Yeah, no more snipping. Sorry, I don't want to make fun of disabilities. I have some of those. Yeah, that's why I didn't want to get disgusting and talk about vomit and shit. But it really doesn't smell like vomit. It smells like, you know, smells like the vomit that comes out of like something that's 4 days dead. So it's like dead person vomit. So that's a little distance from physics. So we probably should get back to physics a little. Yeah, well, I did some composting. I save some of the junk and throw it in the compost pile. I have a little bucket in the kitchen. I didn't like empty it in like a month. Boy, oh man, smell. Ooh. It's just rice or pasta and stuff. But man, when it goes bad, rice, when it goes bad, Whoa, does that go bad, bad? It goes bad in a bad way. Yeah, so if you have to shovel rotten rice, that's the worst one. Why does a photon travel across the universe? Well, obviously to get to the other side. Or because it had a dead baby tied to it, or something like that. According to your website, they bounce, perturb, whatever. There's no perturbing, but whatever. Every time an opposite color one branches into it, bounces into it. So since space is saturated, why doesn't like rays scatter? Well, they don't. The force can't hit the force. So again, it's the force can only interact with matter. The so there's no there's no evidence of, you can't tell if two photons hit each other, you can't tell. Even if it's a head-on collision, you can't tell the difference. If they reflect, it's going to look exactly the same as if they go right through each other. Been over it 400 times. What do you season your rice with? Well, anything I can find. Not trying to hate, just genuinely curious. I mean, I throw garlic in it, and I actually like vinegar with a little bit of sugar, sort of works, a little sweet and sour kind of thing. I don't believe all you eat is beans and rice, man. How is that even possible? Well, I mean, it's sort of a documented thing what I eat, but anyway, it's really easy to do. You forgot the pasta part. I do eat pasta. So it's beans, pasta, and rice. And then, vegetables thrown in. First of all, not enough nutrition variation. Second, you get bored. Whatever, fuck you. It's got plenty of nutrition. Yes, that's true. Are built on like two foods. That's right. I mean, and rice is so cheap. It's insanely cheap. 20 pounds of rice for $7. You know how much 20 pounds of dry rice? It makes an incredible amount of food. Can you imagine what his house smells like? Yeah, whatever. It doesn't smell that bad. People have visited it and they haven't gone, oh, it smells like shit in here. No, it doesn't happen. Piro was here. He didn't say anything like, oh, God, Wyndham's house smelled like suck. Partly because they move at the same velocity. I don't know what that means, but yes, it's an answer to the other idiot's question, I guess. Oh, Gary, I recommend Lin Yo Garam. No, I'm not doing any whatever that shit is. I'm not doing any of that either. I haven't too much interest in spicy chili. No, thank you. It really is the best, and no meat. Yes, whatever. It's so subjective. Never splurge and get lentils. I don't really like lentils. Or whatever that other shit is. No, I don't think that's splurging, actually. I mean, I eat the shit I eat because I like it. So it's just, I don't need. Why do I need to make it complicated? I mean, piece of bread and some beans, okay, that works. Some rice with some kind of flavor and some vegetables, that's okay. Pasta with some tomato sauce, that works. Yeah, I'm done. I don't need anything. I mean, I'd like to be able to afford to buy apples and oranges. I mean, I used to eat a lot of fruit when it was affordable, but it's just gotten so expensive that you can't bother doing that anymore. Do you like meats or vegans that taste similar to the real thing? I have no need to replace meat. I don't need I never found the texture of meat all that fascinating. I don't need to eat a synthetic hamburger or something. I just don't need to do that. Ugh. I don't know. I'm just saying, compared to what it used to cost, you can't get apples for like less than $1 a pound. I mean, it's a lot of money for stuff you're going to shit. Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it works. I just don't care what you think. I've made tons of videos. You're saying you've found a flaw or something when you haven't found anything. I understand that when two blue photons bounce off of one another, they don't bounce off of one another. They hit electrons, you retard. I told you a photon can't hit a photon in any meaningful way. Oh, shit. But they would, opposites go perpendicular. I don't know what you even mean by opposites go perpendicular. They can't go in some other direction except the direction they were already going in. And all they're doing is exchanging that direction. That is, one that was going this way goes that way, and the one going that way goes this way. I mean, so fuck you. I mean, I know. I mean, it's okay. I'm just saying I've already done this part. This part is so simple to the theory, and it's just this part doesn't need to be argued. I mean, the kinetic part is that's already a real subject that's already, I don't even need to prove that. That's proven all over the place. That's a contradiction. Also, that would cause scatter. There can't be scatter. There's no possibility for it in the theory. I've already defended these arguments. So go ahead, believe what you want to believe. Okay, you don't believe it because you think photons have to hit each other and they have to scatter off each other. Go ahead, believe whatever you want to. It's not my theory, and I don't think there's any evidence that it has to be that way. So I don't think you've proven anything. All right. Oh, Gary, I'm vegan too. It's not the subject of this room. And believe me, the simple truth, garden burgers are so. Well, I don't care. How many times do I say to you, I just don't fucking give a shit. I don't need food advice, you fucking retard. You're wasting people's time because you like something. You're going to say, oh, everybody else has to like it. I like plum pudding. Therefore, you have to like plum pudding. Fuck you. I don't need any stupid fucking $7 synthetic hamburger. For fuck's sake, made out of a bunch of soy, which I really don't want to eat because I still want to protect my, male boners and shit. I mean, why the fuck would I eat that poison anyway? Fucking idiots. And the beautiful thing, Gary, is that everybody with half a brain who reads my comments knows I'm right. Who knows you're right about what? Jesus, superior mind doesn't know what you're talking about. Whatever. How am I straw manning anything, you retard? Also, I know you think if I get good enough at arguing a position you know is false. Well, you're just this false premises after false premises. Provide your evidence of something. Provide a single experiment my theory is inconsistent with. Or fuck off. Answer the questions I've asked you, little weasel. Okay, so now he's saying Twan theory, so we'll just say goodbye. It's not Twan theory, so fuck off. I don't want your help, so I'm just going to say that clearly. This is a physics channel. I want help doing physics. I don't want this fucking idiotic advice. So, yes, shove your advice, either your penis or your vagina. But, yeah, either one. but I'm not soliciting advice. Clearly, not interested. And by the way, the research on tofu is skewed. There's tofu. No, it's soy, regardless. And there's no skewing of the word estrogen. I know what it is, and it's not a hormone boys should be eating. Oh, God, you're just amazing. Says you. I'm just saying it clearly has effects. Women actually, it's kind of good for them because, especially in menopause and all the rest of that crap, and can help them out. So it's clearly a significant enough amount. And so why would I mess with it? Why would I mess with it? I have no obligation to do it. I don't need it and I don't want it. Can you understand those two words? I don't need it and I don't want it. Oh, I hate people and they're fucking, people do this all the time too. Advice. I just don't, where is there any indication that I am soliciting advice? I might once in a while say, I could use some money. I might solicit help, but I never, ever, 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 just about solicit advice. Except there's like computer problem or something. I might say, hey, does anybody know any solution to this problem? That's when I'm soliciting advice. But all the rest of the time, I'm not soliciting advice. So don't give me any because I don't want it. I don't need it and I don't want it. Yes, whatever. You have your authorities tell you what estrogen is good and what estrogen is bad and all this other crap, and I can find just as many people to tell you just the opposite. So blah 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 blah. But yes, whatever. There's just no point in people. I don't think it's a subject I need to resolve because I don't have a problem. I understand. Why should I eat estrogen? That would be stupid. Yeah. So why play with it? Here's a food that might kill your boner. Why? I don't necessarily like it. I'm not addicted to it. I really don't have any interest in it in any other way. I used to like roasted soybeans. But why would I bother? Why is this? Why isn't it just perfectly rational for me to say, fuck eating that shit, I'll eat something else? There's a million things to eat. I don't even like soy. I don't even like it. It's like eating eggs or something. I hated eggs. It's disgusting. Well, you say you know a lot about it. Does that, again, lots of people who say they're authorities on stuff. I say I'm an authority on physics. Oh, yeah, well, it turns out I am. But most of the people who say they are something aren't. Well, that's another true statement is a lot of hormones are big molecules and they get wiped out before they can get absorbed. Well, I'm not challenging the fact that a credential as a cosmologist. The cosmo, yes, one of those. It's hardly, it hardly means that what diet is best for a 50-year male. Well, I might be dead by the time my birthday goes around. But anyway, yeah, I have to get a better vape. But I know this works. So what the fuck? It's no battery, so at least they ain't gonna blow my face off. Well, mostly works. But the trick is it just takes too much time. It's one problem. It's time consuming vaping. Two-hand vaping is, very unproductive. I mean, I could just make it a little better, but I'm too lazy. Any interesting new physics or philosophy video ideas coming up? Well, I wish there were, but you people aren't helping any. So, I'm stuck. The stupid D. Hilster guy is supposed to be coming up with he has some new gimmick. I'm sure it'll be really super fun. Fun new physics gimmick. But anyway, like I said, I did do the Saturday room, and it was really quite an interesting 2 hours of interrogation. And I think, of course, I was quite brilliant as always. We're not doing Dr. Phil. You're wasting my time. Let's see, is he a compulsive time waster? Let's see, he talked about a vape, and he said the fuck. And then he said, what else did he say? Let's see, I don't see anything here. Fruit is not expensive, so yeah, he's really retarded. Fucking insanely expensive. So anyway, I think it's enough. I really, I plan on having a busy day tomorrow, doing lots of physical stuff in the nice hot weather or something like that. I'm probably just gonna have to spend the whole day watering plants. But anyway, probably is time to go. The freaking quality of the comments is degraded, and but I am awake for whatever dumbass reason. I am awake. Maybe fill with sunshine and lollipops. Yes, and maybe a rainbow. Bubbles. Yeah, I have bubble mix. I have to make some bubbles. That'll make me happy for a few seconds. But yes, wonderful sleep. Except I have mosquito bites. Gotta figure out how to deter mosquitoes. I'm sure people have some kind of recipe for that too. Yeah, I'm not asking for your special recipe. Anyway, if people's answers or advice was actually, I guess it's just been my life experience that people's advice always sucks. So I guess that's why I just don't even listen. Just no. It's always going to be shit. Anyway, so till the next time and such, and at least I think I did some good physics in the beginning of this room anyway, some nice little rants on different subjects and blah, 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 and yeah, done my job, I think. I don't suck at executing. That's just rude. I'm trying to do a lot of things. I'm the little engine that, you know, takes on more than he can chew and all that shit. But it is true. I sort of suck at executing. I guess it is sort of true. Yeah, I don't. I just want to do everything. Just want to. Yes, that's. It really works both ways. I like doing a job well and taking my time and doing it right and all that shit. But in this circumstance, I just want to get it done. Yeah, well, whatever I am, I'm like a thing that, you know, I'm like it's like anything very useful. It gets worn out because it's useful. So that's the real problem, right? Is that I just have so many things that need my attention. And apparently I'm the only one who can do all these things, so I must do them. And it's a hell of a burden to live like that. Yeah, that'll be my rationalization. Well, it's as good as anyone's, right? My own is as good as anyone else's. So anyway, till the next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Physics. Yeah, it's not so bad when it's far in the background. It's not as annoying. But anyway, until next time and such.